don't pay the price you see as an investor.
So let's talk about property prices, right? Let's start there.
Yeah.
A lot of people make the mistake of you like, okay, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to buy a property, whether it's your first or your next one or whatever. And you go onto these listing platforms and you find the home that you want, right? And you see it's listed. Let's say it's listed for, let's say, R1 million. And you arrange a viewing with the agent or the seller, and you go and you view, you are happy, and what do? You sign the offer to purchase. For how much? For the R1 million. In this video, we are going to be telling you why that could be the biggest mistake that you are actually making. So let's talk about buying right and why this is important, right? So the price that you pay is different. There are three different prices that you need to know as a property buyer, whether as an investor or even if you're buying for your home. You need to know that there are three different prices.
Absolutely. There are three types of prices of the same property, guys. There is the price that Lee has just spoken about. It is in the newspaper. It is on those listing platforms. The property is 1 million. We call it the asking price. That's what the seller thinks their property is worth. And the seller and the agent, they have discussed that absolutely, let's list it for 1,000 because most people will take you seriously if you buy it at this. And if it's an estate agent, that's fair. They will also tell you that if you list it at 1.2 million, we're going to suffer and we're going to wait for a long time before your property is sold. And sometimes some agents, that's all they know. Okay, so you list it, it's called the asking price. Okay. The second pricing.
The second price, right, is what we call the market price, right? So the market price is what do similar properties sell for, right? And this is determined by what other properties have sold for,
on that
the size on that street, etc. And usually, depending on the type of property, an estate agent, if you are the seller, they would advise you that it's best to sell at this price because this is the market price of the property, right? So sometimes, depending on the type of the property, you then might need to actually get a proper valuator who is going to come and give you an estimate of what the property is worth based on other criteria. So they would do a much more in-depth analysis of what the market price is. So the market price being what a willing seller and a willing buyer would pay for the property. It's different to what the seller wants. So obviously, as a seller, you want as high as possible. For you as the buyer, you want as low as possible. So when the market value is what is the middle ground for these two, what is the most reasonable price to use, right, in determining the market price. So this is very important because even when the banks are funding or financing your property, they are going to work on the market price. So it's very important that you at least have an appreciation of what the market price is. And in the mentorship, we go into some of the detail around what the market price is. The third one then is the offer price, right? So the offer price is how much you as the seller actually say, dear seller, I want to buy your property for X amount. So do you see that there's three different prices? Let's say me and Miranda are involved in a property transaction. Miranda is the seller and I'm the buyer. So she wants as much for her property as possible. She's going to put an asking price of R1 million. For me, as a buyer or an investor, I don't want to buy, I want to pay R1 million. Why should I pay R1 million? I'm going to come in lower. I'm going to say, yes, that is this is your asking price, but I'm offering you 800,000 rand. And the reason is you want to come in as low as possible as the buyer. So the question you may be asking yourself then is, why would Miranda in this instance agree to sell her property for 800,000? And some people don't even believe that it's actually possible to make an offer for less than what is listed as the price.
Absolutely. I wanted to add to the market price. So market price also is determined by many things. So me now as the seller, it's listed for 1 million rand, and I've got justifications for my property to stay at 1 million, because you know what, that 2-bedroom house, what I went and did, I made improvements to it. It's nicely paved. I put security around it, and it's got an extra cottage outside that has got a potential to earn you extra income, or it gives you an extra bedroom. So I'm sitting here as a seller and I'm like, Slee, my property is 1 million, so no thanks to the 800. So can you see, I've changed the market price on that street. On Moloto Street, there is my house that is a 2-bedroom, and on my left and right there are other 2-bedrooms, but they do not have the same maintenance, and they do not have the security gate, and they don't have the extra cottage on the outside. So mine is 1 million rand, but number 3 and number 1 on the other side, theirs, maybe you can offer them 800. Mine is 1 million rand. That's how market and what changes the value of that product, of that property goes.
But for me as a buyer, right, and in my case, I'm an investor.
Yeah.
I hear your point about your property being nicer. Listen, all sellers think that their property is the best and they want to get as much as possible. But for me as a buyer, I'm in the business of making a profit from property.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and buy it for as low as possible, right?
Yeah.
And then we still also have the bank who is going to come and say, but your cottage at the back was not in the plan, so we don't include it in the valuation, as an example. You know what I mean? So you may feel that when your property, you've done the nicer tiles than your neighbors, therefore you deserve more. Ultimately, it's up to me as the buyer to determine if it's worth paying extra for those things.
Absolutely.
And also the bank who's going to be financing this transaction also needs to feel that those things are worth the extra money that you are now asking for. So there's so many factors that are involved. So I wanted us to go back to talking about why would a seller, okay, in this instance now, Miranda and I, she's saying it's 1 million. I'm saying I'm willing to offer 800,000 rand as the maximum. Miranda could accept my 800,000 rand offer after she tells me her valid arguments for why she's asking for more, but she could agree. Let's talk about why do sellers actually accept lower offer prices than the asking price.
Yes,
because that happens. And a lot of people don't actually know that you can offer below the asking price, and that is where for you as an investor you actually make your money. Absolutely. So why would a seller accept a lower offer price than what they are looking for?
So I'm sitting here, I want to move to Qatar. It's an agency. I want this house to go like now, or we are getting a divorce with the husband or something like that. This house has to go. Now, divorce is a juicy one. It is an advantage to the property investor because most of the time, the two parties that live in that property are not in agreement. They hate each other so much, they have even forgotten business principles. The wife wants it to be sold as quickly as possible, and the husband is trying to say, but our property is worth 1 million rand. It's like, hey. I don't want you. I don't want this house. I don't want anything to do with you. Anything.
Maybe they just even want to just settle the bond.
They just want to settle the bond. They are not thinking business principles. Or sometimes it is the descendants of the owner that are selling the property. They haven't even looked at what the market is. The house down the road was sold for 1.4 million. The other house was sold for 1.2 million. They haven't even evaluated what that street, how that street is performing, and what their parents' house could be worth. So death, divorce, and separations, my goodness, those are juicy for property. They change the price, they change the asking price, they change what we accept as an offer price. So those things could make me end up with, oh, at least there's a buyer at the door. Then I take the 800 and go, right?
And sometimes it's a death, right? So death as well also affects people actually accepting lower prices for their properties than they would if that wasn't the case. You may find, for example, there was a husband and wife, and now one of them has passed on, and he just wants to, maybe the memories are too much in that house, they just want to move, so therefore they'll just accept the offer that they get. Sometimes, ultimately we live in South Africa, sometimes there's even an incident that's happened, a crime that has happened in that family, and they just want to get out of there as quickly as possible. So you may find in that instance that they are willing to actually then accept a lower offer. Sometimes people are just got financial pressures, right? They need to get the money ASAP, and they're sitting on this property. Maybe it's not even their main property, and they just want to get rid of it and make some money. So where possible, try and find the motivation for the sale. It's not always possible, but where possible, because that's where the money sits. If you know that there was a crime that happened in that house, and a week later they're listing their property, you know that they're not going to wait it out and see if there's a buyer that comes and offer them the full price of $1 million. You can then come in and offer low. We're not saying exploit people's grief and traumas, but we're saying if you know why they are selling the property, you've got the potential of negotiating and a lower price. But it's not always possible to find out, and sometimes the agents and the sellers won't tell you why they are selling. So don't be caught up too much in terms of the motivation part of it. But if you can find out, that can be really powerful in you negotiating a better price for your property. You want to invest in property without quitting your 9-to-5 job? You can. And we can show you how to do this through our mentorship program. We are currently in the middle of our current group of mentees, but we'll be opening up intake soon. Right, so what to expect then in the mentorship? We are covering everything from giving the right mindset for investing, because it's very important. We cover how to make sure that you choose the right strategy that's suitable for you, the area, how to identify investment areas, how to identify a profitable investment property, how to manage it so that you make sure that you make a profit, and just generally providing the support and that you need from not only ourselves but also our power team members who have been carefully chosen to ensure that your property investing journey is successful. Join the waitlist. The link is in the bio.
Absolutely. And then in the mentorship, we teach you how negotiation happens as well. Negotiation happens as Lee is talking. You ask about what is fair or what is going on and why is the property on the market. But the other big thing that we speak about a lot is how we are scared as people. We do not know what our properties are worth, or you do not believe that you can actually push back on a price. The reason why we do not negotiate is because we are very nervous buyers. We said that as well. We are nervous buyers. It's like, at least I found something. Or the seller is, at least there's a buyer at the door. They don't know that they can push back on a buyer. Do not be a desperate on either side of this equation. When you are a desperate buyer, you just buy anything and you offer. Some people will even say, I want this property so much, I'm going to give you $1,100,000. Why would you do that? You need the 100,000 to pay the transfer costs. What's wrong with you?
And you actually raise a valid point about that one. And I think, to be fair, property is one of the biggest financial transactions that most people make in their lives. You probably do it once, twice, maybe, if you're lucky, right? So you are already nervous. You're already not sure of that. So if the agent tells you, no, that's what the owner wants, you then immediately put the offer to purchase. But let me tell you, you can put in the offer that you want. It is not up to the agent to tell you that the seller won't accept this. put the offer that you want and put it in writing, and let the seller be the one who decides yes or no. Don't tell yourself, oh no, I don't think they will ever accept this offer.
What are you
know,
thinking?
you know what I mean? Don't let the agent bully you into no. We've got other buyers. You must offer what they're asking for.
Yes. That's the other psychology,
You know what I mean?
right?
They use tricks, right, to make you nervous, because already you're nervous, right? And you are trusting the seller who's a professional, I mean the agent in this instance, who is a professional in the space. You're trusting their judgment. They've walked through the journey with you. But ultimately, it's not their property. They are, if they've been asked by the seller to find them a buyer, you may find that they're the ones who are pushing the agenda of the higher price. So you put your offer in writing. But back to my point about how this is probably one of the most scariest things that you will do in your life from a financial perspective, right? Because now you're taking on this huge debt that you're going to pay for the next 20 or 30 years. But just take a moment and pause, right? And you want to get the property as low as possible, because you start building what we call equity. If the property is worth $1 million and you're putting in 800,000 rand as an offer, you've got the 200,000 rand as equity, which means that you're locking in immediate wealth when you buy that property.
Yeah.
And the second thing that I also want to mention is, for us as property investors, this is our daily bread. This is our bread and butter. Buying properties are things that you should be comfortable to do, right? So if you put an offer and the seller doesn't accept it, the agent, just park it. It's okay. There are many fish in the sea. Move on to the next one. And as a matter of fact, if you actually keep your offers to purchase that you've done in a folder and you just say, okay, not now, you never know.
They
2
come
months,
back.
3 months, 4 months down the line, you call the agent again, like, oh, by the way, I see that property is still on the market. You know, my offer is still there. You may find that they are now in a more desperate situation than they were when you first put in the offer, because now it's been 4 months and the property is still on the market, right? So, so when you come back, they might actually accept it. But in the meantime, you're busy putting in other offers. Ubis.
Yeah.
Because now you're an investor.
And incidentally, what you find, sometimes the seller will say, yeah, Slee, if you put another 25, I'll accept the offer. There you are. Now suddenly you've met each other in the middle because they wanted to see if they could get a better offer. But 3 months, 4 months down the line, and their desperate situation is getting more desperate at the back. So they come back to the buyer and say, can you put in 20 more, 25 more? And she says, yeah, absolutely. And she knows she's still locking in that equity of 175,000. That. So asking price is not offer price. It's sometimes not even the market price. There are 3 types of prices. Don't get fooled. We cover that in our mentorship, and our mentees know there's nothing like desperately buying. You don't desperately buy in our mentorship. Yeah.
And I think before we just wrap up this video, I wanted to mention one big mistake that I've seen some people make in the property space, right? When you're buying a property. Let's say, for example, using our example of R1 million, Miranda is insisting that her property is worth $1 million, and let's say the bank also let's say the bank now does a valuation, because now she's convinced that, oh, because I added bathrooms and nicer tiles and whatever else, my property is $1 million. The bank now comes in and says, nope, we are willing to, it's 900,000 and that's it. But because you are so desperate for the property, now you're actually paying more than what the bank is willing to. What the bank is telling you, this property is worth X amount of money. But because you are so desperate for the property, you now end up spending more, right? So if the bank, so just be careful about this, right? If the bank A is not willing to finance that property, you as the buyer, walk away. So use the bank as like your protector, like your risk management system. If the bank doesn't want to finance this property for whatever reason, so be careful of those listings with cash buyer only, because there's normally a scandal involved there. So if the bank is not willing to finance it, walk away. If the bank is saying they are only willing to, the property is only worth X, which is not related to how much you qualify for, but what the property is worth, don't now go and top up, because now you're overspending for the property. So use the bank's guide. They've got a lot of data at their disposal that can help them to assess the market value or what the property is worth. Where now you go in and you pay extra because now you are desperate for the property. Don't be desperate. there are many fish in the sea. There are many properties. You will find the property that works for you.
For you.
So now that we've had these insightful conversations and we want to be able to bring this to more people, right? So the best way to find out more about, the programs that we run, our workshops, we've got live events that we do, and we also have a mentorship program. Please subscribe to our mailing list. The list will be, the link will be in the description below. And if you want to get more videos like these, we'll be sharing more over the next couple of weeks. Please make sure that you subscribe to our channel and switch on the notification button.